Understanding where toxic masculinity comes from and how society can change it. Why did I choose this topic? I chose this topic because it's very controversial, especially right now, and I wanted to show information and make other connections that weren't just about hating men. I like to explain how it hurts both men and women, and as someone who sees and experiences these things on a daily basis, I think it's important for people to be informed and informed correctly without so much hate and everything. My topic is toxic masculinity, and toxic masculinity has been damaging to people and how society works. Recognizing toxic masculinity for what it is and addressing these concerns, the concerns that go along with it, could benefit everyone and could aid society in creating better people. What is toxic masculinity? Clemens 2017 says the phrase toxic masculinity is derived from studies that focus on violent behavior perpetrated by men, and this is key, is designed to describe not masculinity itself, but a form of gendered behavior that results when expectations of what it means to be a man go wrong. So what she's saying is that it doesn't so much have to do with being masculine, but behavior that was instilled in the person by enforcing societal gender norms. She also goes on to say how this phrase isn't supposed to signify evil and maliciousness in men, and it doesn't mean that men are born violent, but is indeed a learned behavior. Gender roles. One of the major reasons why toxic masculinity is even a concept is because of the way society places gender roles. Hildegard Titus, 2018, explains how society ill-constructed gender norms, which leads to toxic behaviors. Some of these gender norms include girls being given dolls. They're told that they're supposed to do housework, they're supposed to be caregiving, basically anything that's related to domestication, while boys are given items that can cause destruction, such as tools, guns, swords, and that could all signify violence and a violent behavior. This is a picture of traditional gender stereotypes. So on the feminine side, it says non-aggressive, dependent, easily influenced, submissive, passive, home-oriented, easily hurt emotionally, while men are supposed to be aggressive, independent, not easily influenced, dominant, active, worldly, not easily emotionally hurt. Men being told what to do with their emotions and not have emotions is one of the big problems that reoccurs with toxic masculinity. Okay, so men are wanting to be emotionally suppressed. Titus 2018 talks about how when a boy is hurt, upset, and scared, we tell them men don't cry. From a young age, we already tell them that the ability to express and feel emotions is something that is to be ashamed of and a sign of weakness. So from a young age, it is instilled in boys that releasing emotions is weak and makes them inferior somehow, while realistically holding up emotions and holding them in can lead to harmful acts against themselves and or others. In Fraud's Journal, about a book by Jared Sexton, it is said that toxic masculinity creates an inevitable byproduct, which is rage and engendered by emotional repression and shame at feelings labeled weak and unmanly. It's known by most people that repression of emotions for anyone, not just men, is never a healthy coping mechanism and can lead to a lot of confusion on how to deal with certain stressors and situations as children grow up. Since from a young age, boys are taught that their ways of physical expression are through the use of potentially harmful or violent tools, they turn their bottled up emotions into anger, and they use these tools in a violent way. Another term that can go along with toxic masculinity is androcentrism. Steinberg 2012 defines this as the unconscious, unquestioned routine and ambiguous centrality of men, maleness, and masculinity. This means that society, without a second thought, view men as having more power and more intellectualism than women do. Steinberg also goes on to talk about how androcentrism puts forth that men have the brain capacity to be intellectual and think with reason while women don't, and that's why women are lesser. Toxic masculinity is also closely talked about with sexual assault. It starts with the idea that men are to see women's bodies as objects and that they have more power than women. Titus 2018 explains it as the label of a woman has allowed society and men to think of us, our bodies, and our agency in our lives as a public space in which they can do whatever they want to us. But what also needs to be addressed is that the fact that men are abused or sexually assaulted on a daily basis, and toxic masculinity has silenced them also. Since it's not seen as a masculine thing or a manly thing to talk about feelings and hurtful experiences, men are too embarrassed and too ashamed to speak up about what has happened to them. To reiterate the fact that toxic masculinity doesn't only affect women, I like to read this quote from Clemens 2017 about the Good Man Project. It says, "Toxic masculinity is a narrow and repressive description of manhood, designating manhood as defined by violence, sex status, and aggression. It's a cultural idea of manliness where strength is everything while emotions are weakness, where sex and brutality are yardsticks by which men are measured, while supposedly feminine traits, which range from emotional vulnerability to simply not being hypersexual, are the means by which your status as a man can be taken away." So it's time for a change. And what can we do to make these changes? So the changes that can be made are, if people were to teach both genders the same things equally, it would eliminate some of the instilled power complexes of men. It can be taught that both boys and girls can take care of the house and kids, fix the car, or go hunting, and can cry and express emotions when feeling any type of pain or hurt. It doesn't have to be just women who are hurt and can express that they're hurt. This will allow for both genders to grow up to be kind-hearted and strong, hardworking individuals who see and treat each other as equals with the same capabilities and same power. So the conclusion is, this will always be a topic of debate. Toxic masculinity is mostly discussed among women and feminists, but it can be expanded to men who want change too. And there are men out there who want this. All voices that fell victim to outbursts of toxic masculinity should be heard, and society has been shifting to get more men in the conversation too. By understanding all aspects of toxic masculinity and seeing the simple ways of changing it, society can grow new generations of changed equals.